What is up, everyone? Volathis here, and this is going to be my little breakdown and thoughts of the live letter 47 from FanFest 2018-2019 in Las Vegas. So I'm going to start off with saying that this was a decently long live letter. They repeatedly said during the live letter that they were going over schedule, so bear with me here, but we're going to go ahead and hop right into this. So patch 4.5 is going to be called a Requiem for Heroes, and they started off by making the joke that the Warrior Light must die, and it's the end of Final Fantasy XIV. Obviously joking, of course. And this is going to be 2 parts, and they said for this live letter, they aren't going to say what part the content will be in, for the most part, for most of these, but we're getting part 1 in early January 2019, and part 2 is in March 2019. And the story is going to be ramping up, and it's pretty intense, and they hope we enjoy it. So, and this live letter is part 1 is just going to be the breakdown of some artwork and screenshots. I'll be providing what I can in this video, and I'm using them from the press release Square Enix website. So let's discuss the features here. Of course, we're getting new main scenario quests, which will lead to the X-Pack and speeding up the momentum. They showed off some screenshots of Maxima talking to Alice, as well as the Asian who is possessing the Guardian. I can't remember his name off the top of my head here, but we're also going to be getting new side story quests. We're getting the Four Lords finale and more Hildebrand, and they mentioned Yojimbo, so we're probably going to be fighting him just like they did in FanFest, and they said, of course, don't spoil it for anyone else. They showed a screenshot of the Four Lords and discussed that Blue Mage will be added, as well as there's going to be new job quests tied to that, and there is the Masked Carnival event, which will take place in Udall. And of course, there's going to be a new dungeon tied to the main scenario quest, which is the Gimli Dark. They showed off the artwork. I do not have a screenshot of it, but from what I could tell, it looked like what was used in the teaser trailer for Shadowbringers. And then they also talked about we'll be getting the new Alliance raid, the final chapter of the Return to Volathis, which is the Unborn Monastery, and they said the Japanese name is unique, but this is roughly what it translated into English. And they showed artwork of the final dog mount that we're getting, which is the QB. And they showed a little bit of the artwork of the Unborn Monastery, and they said it may or may not be it. They discussed we're getting new trials, which of course is the Four Lords. We're getting Shinryu, which is called the Wreath of Snakes. I don't have the artwork for this, but they pointed out that there's handrails. It's an elevated place, so obviously we're going to fall off, and they said that they should hopefully have some video of it in the next live letter. We're also getting the final Eureka chapter called Hydus, which is the Greek word for water, and they wanted to do something kind of different. They said they're going to be ramping up the difficulty of this and wanted to make it more like a public dungeon and raid. So we'll have to learn to find out. They did mention that this is probably more towards part 2 of patch 4.5. The Gold Saucer is also getting new content. The only content that they mentioned so far, there is going to be more, but we're getting a new gate, which is called Air Force One. They're not sure what the one part is, but they were referencing that this is probably going to have to do something with the mob. The Guardian spawns the sort of like airplane, and they mentioned something like it being on a roller coaster, and you have to shoot mobs. I'm wondering if maybe the one implies that there's only one winner, like how Typhoon is. It sounds like it's probably makes me think of maybe the carnival game where there's targets moving back and forth and you shoot them, and maybe that's what it's gonna be. But we'll learn later. They also mentioned a new delivery client is gonna be involved. I was actually a little surprised at that. They didn't specify any further. I personally don't think we need another one, but they're going to be adding it. I do have questions, obviously, who is it, and are we going to be dressing them up, or is it just going to be just a person that we deliver? We'll have to wait and see. And then they focused on the world system transfer that we're going to be getting towards the end of patch 4.5. And they want to stress sort of the importance of how this is going to work. So hopefully I can also do my best to explain this part. So for one thing, with the restrictions involved and stuff like this. So for one thing, you can only transfer to other worlds that are in your data center. And you get like a duty confirmation when you try to do this. You're also sort of queued into it. So if the world is congested, you're not going to be able to go to it, as an example. And of course, as previously explained, you have to go to the Aetherites of Limsa, Lamensa, Gridania, or Udal to transfer to those worlds. They did want to specify, though, there's no time limit on this. You can progress with quests, and logging out in another world will not switch you back to your home world when you come back. So you can stay in another world as long as you want. So they discussed sort of the restrictions that would be implied with this. So for one, there's not really going to be restrictions on quests or instance duties. They did want to point that out. Some things may not work. You cannot summon or hire retainers while you're in another world. You cannot put up items for sale on the markets, but you can buy items from the market. So this might be something that we might be able to help balance the market out. They did try to investigate if they could just make a universal market board for Final Fantasy XIV, but it would require an overhaul of all the basic systems, and it's basically impossible that they could do this, so this is the best they can do. And obviously you cannot buy estate plots or apartments while you're in another world. You can visit those plots, but by no means you cannot do that. You would have to buy it on your home world. And they did mention that currently it is called world transfers for you to transfer in other worlds. It will be changed later on probably to home world transfer. There isn't a name for that quite yet. We'll have to wait and see. Link shells chat are not available unless you are in a cross-world link shell, but FC chat is available and you can see that, so that implies that probably that the link shells has a different system compared to the FC chat. And the way they explain to it is it implies that while you're on another world, your FC may not know that. So they may ask you, what world are you on? Come back to your home world if there's something there. Obviously, you can also not recruit people and add people to the FC while you're in another world. You have to do that on your home world. I guess you could maybe recruit in regards of like get people interested to transfer to your world and then join the FC, but you can't invite them to the FC while you're on another world. You cannot schedule or attend the eternal bonding ceremonies. They did say that hopefully in the future they can fix this, but to get everything running they couldn't implement that, so maybe something in the future. You cannot use the Moogle delivery system, but you are notified when you get mail. You cannot gather at Unspoiled and Legendary Gathering points. You cannot buy tickets for the Jumbo Cackpot. And you cannot do Lord of Verminion and Triple Triad tournaments. Now, I'm going to say a few quick thoughts. This is basically what I expected to a certain extent, the limitations of the world transfer system, but they're not. So to me, I'm not really upset about the negatives involved with this. This is kind of what I expected. I am hoping, like they said, that hopefully that being able to transfer and buy on different worlds though will help make the market more standardized, and you won't have to transfer to different worlds to get a better deal. And as they specified earlier, if you're on a world where, let's say for the next expansion, we have we get the issue that we had in Stormblood where we couldn't queue for the main scenario because the instance servers were too maxed, you could go to a different world and see if the queue there is easier. And then the next thing that was discussed was the data center expansion. So North America, our new data center is going to be called Crystal, and for Europe it is going to be called Light. And they made the joke that they will be adding light to the chaos. And hopefully I can find a screenshot of these world distributions here. They showed off what the North American one is going to look like and the Europe one is going to look like. They did say that they were sorry that they had to make this decision, but it was a long and thought out process. And with my thoughts on this is hopefully after all the transfers and stuff like that, that no world is going to get screwed out of this. I mean, there's going to be plenty of time for people to server hop. As a reference, the server that I'm going on is going to go to Crystal, so we'll have to wait and see. They also referenced that with the servers that they weren't trying to do any foreshadowing because for Europe, Louis Swall was in Chaos and Zodiark was in the Light. There was also 2 servers that were not named for the Europe data center. They said they're going to be adding those later on. So with these changes to the data center, they're trying to help out as much as possible for this. So what they're going to be doing is they're changing how the world transfer system works temporarily. So the redistribution of this is scheduled to be done over 2 weeks. And within that time frame, for all characters from worlds with affected data centers, you're going to be able to do it free of charge. And they're changing the limitations on that. The maximum guild that can be retained by players is going to be capped at 999,999 gil. So just one gil under 1 billion here. And your houses that will be lost if you transfer a course, you will be reimbursed for 100% of the original purchasing price, and an additional 3 million gil for furnishing lost. If you have an apartment, you will be reimbursed as well for 500,000 gil and another 500,000 gil for furnishing. So depending on what server you are and what kind of furnishings you have, that you may get more money out of this transfer. But I think the real issue is depending on what server you're going is if you'll be able to even get a house. So that's just gonna have to depend on that. Currently, my thought process on it, to an extent I'm worried, but I feel like overall everyone's going to be worried, and we're just going to have to wait and see. What's really going to matter is after this is done, how many people leave their current server to go to a different server. That's really what's going to affect, because the projections for the changes right now is the assumption that maybe not everyone's going to move. So the current setup is ideal, but we both know that people are going to move. So we're just going to have to wait and see. I'm going to remain hopeful. It was just a little bit of a shock, but it's what it is, and I'm trying to remain hopeful. And then for the last part of the live letter, they brought out the lead battle system designer. Hopefully I don't butcher this too much, but Sueyoshi Yakazawa, and this is the person that also helped work on the Blue Mage. He's also kind of earned the nickname of Mr. Atma because he worked on the Atmas. So they started off by showing the Blue Mage trailer again, and they wanted to go into more detail for this. So they gave an overview. We're going to learn these new spells from enemies, and we're going to be able to use it. And we don't learn monster actions up with level. We are going to have to go into the world and find these. And they further explain why this is the first limited job. So for one thing, it has no base class, starts at level 1. Level cap is going to start at 50 and be raised over time. New job quests are going to be added on release. Its primary role is to use range magic DPS gear and range DPS roll actions. And to unlock it, you have to have a level 50 Discipline of War or Discipline of Magic character. You have to complete all of A Realm Reborn main scenario quests. There's no expansions required. And by limited, this is a job that is designed for solo play and not necessarily suited for parties. You can learn these spells while you're in parties, and they explain that the Masked Carnival is a solo blue mage instance. And they try to explain their best why this is made a solo class. Hopefully I do the best part to replicate that. So part of it is just some of these monster abilities are going to be broken, and one example used was casting like level 5 death on like Omega and one-shotting it. So obviously that would be really broken. And then maybe with some of the debuffs, although they didn't go into description, but some of the like debuffs may not work on some of the bosses and stuff like that. And there's always the thought of that, like, everyone would want a blue mage, and then you join the party and they use the example of, oh, you don't have this move, and they'll kick you out of the party. So we're gonna learn these abilities by going out into the world and learning them. They also wanted to fulfill what a blue mage is. This took about a year to get the concept running, and of course this will open the door for other jobs that may not work as well in Final Fantasy XIV, such as the Beast Tamer and Puppet Master. Those are all hypothetical, of course, but they just want to add it to it, and that of course requires these unique mechanics and restrictions. You can only join duties with a preformed party, and this of course makes it impossible for you to do any matchmaking for duty roulettes. PvP content, Deep Dungeon was mentioned, and there might be others. And progression of defeating, they explained how to level for this is defeating enemies in public areas. They've increased the XP for what these monsters give for the blue mage, and they explained maybe we'll exterminate all the Cactars and Udal. You can of course form preform parties and do instance duties that way, and once again reinforce that you can't do duty roulettes. They explained also in further detail what the Masked Carnival is. You can do this at level 50, and you're going to be able to take on this challenge. And they said in this type of content, element weaknesses matter. So they mentioned like maybe if you pick like you're fighting a bird, which is considered under Cloudkin, it would be weak against lightning attacks. And for how this is going to work, they said there's about 25 different types of challenges, and each of them have 3 rounds. Of course, this is going to include different enemies and weaknesses. So you're going to want to be building your blue mage for each of those rounds probably. They explain that action learn. So to learn your blue mage abilities, you do not have to be hit by a spell, but you have to at least see it. Unfortunately, even though you see it, it is not guaranteed that you will learn the ability. It was put in quotation marks that we are going to rarely learn these abilities. And so some people are obviously going to progress at different rates with this, and as you gain these abilities, they're all going to cost MP. Stronger spells are going to cost more MP. At release, we're getting 49 unique spells, and they're going to increase the abilities as we get the level cap increased. You can only equip 24 at a time. I do not have the screenshot, but they did show a screenshot of a blue mage spell book. And of course, once we learn an ability, we keep an ability. And in the book, they will not tell you where to get these abilities, but it will be hinted. So there is going to be sort of this sense of community, or at least some of these spells you're going to have to look up online, because you obviously don't want to be grinding a monster for hours and then find out this monster will give you absolutely nothing. And they did show off another move. Blue Mage is going to get Mighty Guard. If you're not familiar, that is the grade 2 limit break for tank, which has been renamed to Stronghold. And they also mentioned that it looks like a lot of the attacks involve breath attacks, like water, fire, and stuff like that. And so that covered most of the Blue Mage. I want to discuss sort of my final thoughts on that at the end, but we're going to go over real quick. There was some announcements. So they mentioned the next FanFest, which will be the Europe one, which is February 2nd and 3rd. And then for the one in Japan is March 23rd and 24th. They brought up the FanFest items are on sale in the Mog Station for the Fenrir mount, which has the battleground music of the chase, and the Tifa minion. They discussed about the Encyclopedia of Eorzea Volume 2, which sold out at FanFest, will be on sale November 24th. The Primals Blu-ray disc, which is a disc they did a tour of 4 cities in Japan, as well as Seoul and South Korea. It has footage of their Osaka performance, has songs performed during the show and behind the scenes, and the subtitles, of course, are done by Koji Fox, so there will be English subtitles, and that comes out on February 6th. They also, I don't have the screenshot, but there was a lore update to I believe it's one of the fish in game, and they just wanted to show that off, and it ended with the closing goodbye statements to everyone. So this part of the video now, I just want to go ahead and just throw some of my thoughts out there real quick, and my thoughts are going to focus on the implementation of Blue Mage. So I'm not exactly too happy about this. Once again, this is my opinion. I don't speak for everyone. I'm only speaking for myself. So when I heard limited job, obviously I was like, okay, well, what's limited? Oh, it just starts at 50. It can only cap at 50. That's okay. But I'm a little upset that this character is, for me, Final Fantasy XIV has always been about adding jobs to the game and making them work for the MMO. And here we have the Blue Mage, which from all accounts technically shouldn't be in the MMO. If it's literally designed for solo content, it's not really meant for the MMO. I understand that part of that is it's going to cover its weaknesses, although at the same time this class sounds a little OP sometimes. But I was under the impression personally that if they were going to add the Blue Mage, my idea was that you'd get your job quests, maybe to have had it work they would have had to do more job quests than they do than any of the current jobs, but for that job quest they would send you fight that monster and you would gain the ability from the monster that way, maybe slay 5 mobiles or something like that, and then of course this limits just we're gonna have to go back to old content and do stuff like that. I'm also never really a fan of RNG, especially when the word rarely is involved. Personally, I guess I'm a little complaining about this, but usually when the word rarely and RNG involves with me, it feels like I'm always the one that has to grind either the maximum amount of time or I'm not going to be getting skills quick. As an example, when they released Atmas, I did it for about 2 months, got maybe 1 or 2, I don't remember how many I got, but I quit grinding the Atmas. I wasn't going to do it with 2 months of no luck. So I'm not exactly too happy. I'm also more upset about the idea that the limited jobs is going to be a system that might be utilized more, which means we're going to get even more jobs that aren't going to be designed to work in MMOs to the point that they are just going to be solo classes. Personally, I wish Final Fantasy XIV would just make the Blue Mage this limited class and make none moving forward, but that's my take. It's also just for me, they've always found ways to work, and I feel like Blue Mage could have worked. Yes, it would have restricted it, and the best example, I was talking with members in the free company, is Red Mage. We found a way for Red Mage to work, so I feel like we could have made Blue Mage. That being said, of course, obviously the way the Blue Mage has been designed is probably the most truest form of a Blue Mage, and I do appreciate that, but like I said, I'm just leaning more on the side that I was hoping that this would be a true job, not a limited. But that's my thoughts. It doesn't mean I'm right. It's my opinion. So let me know in the comments down below, what do you feel about all this? What are you excited for? There's still many exciting things that I'm ready for in this expansion, and I can't wait. So comment down below. Also, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button. Also mention if you want me to cover more live letters in the future, and subscribe to the channel to stay updated. But once again, it has been a pleasure, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.